little less complex. I'm just gonna try to think of general shapes in this thing, like if we broke loose and come up with some design elements of kind of like a bat monster. So I'm thinking his head would be, we need the big bat ears, hair. He's come up with shapes like, I know his face would kind of be a V-ish angle, pointy at the bottom. And don't think about like carving out of something, clay, I guess, as opposed to even drawing. Depends what I've heard different artists like to think of it different ways, but it comes his head is really. That no. Just to break my own rule, I was already getting too obsessed with this. This head's a little too big, I think. No, I mean, the angle I want it. Tilt, shrink it down a little bit. And then follow my own rules to try to break it, that whole body a little more. So your neck kind of comes down, be kind of human. You know, you don't have to make them like put together like Frankenstein. So let's see how this can become big and imposing. So your neck muscles usually run down into your. And then you want like an action line that's going to go through the whole piece. So, oh, too big.
I'm sorry, Andrew. You said that you mentioned this the last live draw, but what software package are you using? I can't quite read it.
No problem. It's Clip Studio. It was called Manga Studio.
Okay, thank you. It just looks more user friendly than Photoshop.
Yeah, I've heard this from most people. It's like the actual drawing kind of feel is a little more natural, I think. I think they do a good job of capturing it. Like, I don't know, just maybe because Photoshop didn't start off like as that's what its intention was when Manga Studio, like that's what it was built for. So I think they kind of nail it a little bit better.
Yeah.
The only thing is I wouldn't. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So there's one. Yeah. There's one called it's Brendan. No, Frieden. Frieden. He has like too many. I think almost. This one's called. This is like a pencil I really like for sketching before like ink it. It's called Bob the Build Up. I don't know whoever came up with that name, but it's just got a nice feel for just like almost like a pencil, and then you can just knock it back after you got it set that set up.
Yeah, because I was gonna say it looks a lot like pencil.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, like the brush pack I got has like 600 brushes, and I haven't had time to go through and like check out a bunch of them, but some of the concept ones are really nice. Just because they're like chunky and almost like oil paint. So yeah, I recommend if anyone be interested in checking those brushes out. It's pretty worthwhile.
That's very cool. Andrew, can you check what your mic output is set to real quick?
How's that?
Oh.
Is that okay?
Oh, wow, that's so much clearer.
Yeah, that's so much clearer. Okay, so it wasn't. Okay. Thank you so much.
No, it's probably just set on the wrong. You know when you plug it in,
Discord, it like automatically does it to my webcam too, so my mic always sounds muffled.
Yeah, I love switching. So
Sorry
sorry
for
about
not
that.
switching that over earlier. No, that was my fault. I just thought that that was your mic.
Oh no, no, it's all good.
Thanks.
Okay. Good. Good to know. I'll make sure I check it next time.
Nice.
Well, I think your audience, I guess in this case, meaning me, is going to learn as well because I too thought it was your mic. And, you know, you never want to criticize somebody's hardware.
Yeah, it's all good.
So when you're doing maybe like humanoid creatures like this,
Yeah.
that where you think that just the proportions might get ridiculous, like they're hulked out, do you
Yeah.
try to still follow traditional musculature, or do you ever experiment with what you imagine it would have to be like to compensate?
Usually it's still pretty traditional, even if it's just like jacked up version of the thing. It gets weird when you make them do things, I guess. Like if they're like whatever muscle is activating. So if he was like bench pressing something, then like those muscles might just get crazy. Like if they're flexing or something like that.
Okay.
But other than that, like it's all pretty much the same thing.
Okay. I just
Yeah.
because we've all heard that, like, you know, if you made a real King Kong, his ankles would break.
Yes, yeah,
I just
yeah.
I just didn't know if you dealt with that sort of concept as something gets abnormally large or small or just different. You thought about the different ways that the physics might apply.
Yeah, I think it's like even if it's fantasy or like fantastic or whatever, yeah, I think it's a good idea just to keep like it doesn't have to be like right, I guess, but it has to be it's even like when you're writing a story, like if it looks somewhat plausible, um, then you can kind of get away with it, you know? But if it's like, I don't know, a lot of time it can be a crazy stylistic choice anyway, so depends, but yeah. I don't know.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. I want to make him. My thing in my head was that he's kind of escaped, and then this is the doctor. He's like holding him by his head. Maybe he can have his arms raised up, like holding on, like, oh no.
Help.
Yeah. You can
Yeah,
already see just like, oh,
mhm.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was
No,
gonna
go.
say like the proportion thing really, because I also did art for a while, and drawing humans was always hard for me because I could never get the proportions correct. And then like they always ended up looking weird, so I'm just amazed by how you're just so easily sketching these out.
Yeah, it's a lot of just repetition and practice.
Mm,
And then the other thing is like using, yeah, it's all because it's something to do with your eye, and then it's checking, right? So like I've just done it so many times, especially like a straight shot like this. It doesn't. It's just a matter of practice and knowing like everything's relatable to whatever. So because he's kind of humanoid esque, I can get
mhm.
away with in my brain doing it faster. Like his back legs, I'm gonna make like kind of more bat like
Ah,
down
yeah.
here, but like a lot of little things. Like I just know the rib cage is going to line up with this elbow. This name's going to go by this thigh. Like this, technically, like from here to here, and then from there to there is halfway. But his legs can be all crazy and bent, so I can get away with kind of probably fitting it in here and
Do you
still
give
look.
it conscious thought at this point, or is this just all muscle memory?
It's still activating my brain, but not. I don't think it's as taxing anymore. But once like at this stage, I can kind of let it flow. But then like when I hop in here to like fully render it and like if I'm gonna be like, okay, the light's coming down here, then I still have to think a lot. Like I just know like deltoids, I can like do this muscle and like know that this form. It's all because like his shoulder here is still once you get used to it, like it's still just gonna be this circle or a semicircle with little circles feeding into it. So you know, like this shadow is gonna be this side, and then this shadow is gonna be this side. There's another little one here, but you know, like that darker edge is going to fit in there, and then you fit another shape into this. So your bicep is essentially like a long footballish shape like this. And then you got a tricep, and then there's another, get the name of it, there's a tendon that runs in between here. So like this is going to cast a shadow, and then this is going to be all in shadow. This is kind of going to go back a bit. So it's really like knowing shapes and locking shapes into those other shapes. And then that helps with your brain if you're inventing the lighting.
I'm
to go-
totally going to blame you if the next time I see somebody in a bathing suit, all I see is shapes and footballs and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, like where rectangles hooking up with squares and rectangles and triangles. Pretty much that's all you need is a rectangle, circle, and a triangle. You should be able to create at least an approximation of most things. And that's what I think, like for drawing into your imagination, that's what's essential, I think. Like even this foot, like this is gonna come back and this would be like let's say he's got a talon bat heel thing here. Let's go, I'll put it over here, but break that down into, this is the top of the foot, like that. And let's say this is the side, and then put circles where those toes feed into that thing. Right, and you can add one more that locks in, and then this foot would feed into that like a circle. Right. So then if you now it's easier, right? So if the light's coming this way, then you're gonna like, okay, well underneath this cylinder is gonna be darker, and you would gradually change the light, and then on top of the foot, this would cast a shadow on top of here, maybe like this. And then this side's gonna be dark, and then
you talked a little bit about pressure last time when you were answering a question. How much of your shadowing is pressure versus repeated motion versus a darker color?
yeah, that's a good question. It's that's like kind of two separate things. Like you can do, how do I? Kind of just two separate kind of elements would be like color theory to define a form, or like this way when I'm just like doing kind of a single tone with other line, or kind of like just liner blacks, I guess, like complete darkness, or inking kind of techniques is kind of the easier way to think about it. So a lot of time like shadows are a lot more saturated than lights. Like if light is coming at something, then people will have the tendency to be like, oh, it's darker, right, in a shadow. But it's not really the case. A lot of times like a light spot will be more washed out and desaturated. So like you can see on my screen, like if you staying over here, but then if you were to do a shadow in here, I'd probably actually go somewhere over in the more saturated but darker section. And so this would be like this kind of a tone, pretend like it's blue, and then something else on top would be washed out but lighter. And then maybe a rim light of like complete light right here would just be like white. So that kind of gives you kind of a hard edge, this we call it, like this part that would spin. So to make that more of a gradual, if this is like a turning cylinder, you're gonna want like one more tone in between the two to try to wrap it. If that makes any sense. But so if you put like a really light line right beside a dark one, your brain kind of reads this as like an edge, right? Like a hard edge. And then if you
Sure.
wanted to, yeah. So it's like, it makes sense when you point it out, but then that kind of creates a curve, right? Because it's like slowly changing value or saturation kind of sense. So you can use
Okay.
those to your benefit. So that's more like a painterly approach. And then a lot of stuff I'll do is like inking, kind of like a comic book. You'll grab, we call it like spotting blacks or picking out your black section. So like this arm here, I might use inking lines, or this could be all blacked out because it's going like he's moving his arm back, and this plane will be all black. So you're kind of cutting out chunks that you're like shapes that make sense that would be in complete darkness. Even underneath his kind of, if he had big abs or something, but even especially like this section here, there might be some light that catches off his back, but like this part's gonna curl, and this whole section will be dark. So you can kind
So
of cut things.
when
Yeah.
does pen pressure come into play then?
That's kind of, I use it to like emulate like more like a brush. So if I have a lot of time, that's more like just controlling like the thickness of a line.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's like another thing you can do is if the light, same thing, if it's coming this way, this might cast a bigger shadow if it's like a bigger muscle, and then taper off like kind of like this. So you can kind of use like the line weight to define what's heavier or thicker, what's casting more shadow as it goes around. And the other way to do it as well is like, even if you want just to define a form, the outline of something might be thicker. You'll see this in cartoons a lot. And then they'll make sure all the lines that are defining something inside that is a thinner line. So it kind of shows that like that this is the general big form, and then everything inside it's just detail like fur or something like that. Because you don't want the lines inside to compete with the whole general shape.
It's so amazing. It just you showing that just made that arm pop into life so much.
Yeah. And then like the more you, so you can really fur.
Andrew, what are you drawing on? What device are you using?
I'm using a Huion tablet. So I find like I've tested both. Like they have the Cintiqs. I'm in a studio with a bunch of other artists called the Raid Studio, and so there's everyone kind of has a mix of, it's either usually Huions now or Cintiqs, and the latest version. This is the latest the Huion tablets, and I find they're almost like they're right on the edge of just competing full on with the Cintiq, so I don't mind. I had an older version before that I would have to, it wasn't good enough to ink on. I would have to like print off stuff, which I preferred anyway. That's why I didn't really mind. I would
Is
pencil.
Is it like a standalone device, or is it plugged into your PC or something?
Yeah, no, yeah, it plugs into the PC.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yes. I know you can get some pretty fancy ones that Cintiq have now that you can have. I think Huron might make some too. They have some, yeah, the straight up standalones are pretty neat. I know Cintiq has they have like a whole full standalone that you can get.
Is it affordable?
I wouldn't say, especially because
For an
like
average person.
yeah, and they're selling like, yeah, I don't know. You can get the giant. We were tempted to get in the studio here. We're looking at like I don't know what the dimensions were, but Cintiq has like a giant one that literally is like as big as my whole drawing table, like drafting table. So you could be like, yeah, it's crazy. But I saw reviews on it that like the resolution's you're sacrificing some stuff because it's getting so big that it's kind of unnecessary. It's like bigger than, it'd be fun though. I wouldn't complain.
Like Wacom's or Wacoms or whatever, they're not really good anymore.
Oh yeah, they're still good. Yeah, that's Cintiq, I think.
Oh,
they're the same ones. Yeah, though I still think they're the best.
For the
I
average
don't.
drawer, would you recommend like just the iPad and Procreate? Like for people who just want to practice, if not, like if they already have an iPad, I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially like the Gen 2 or whatever.
Mhm.
I have one of those at my house. So I'll just like sit on the couch and use that one. It's no, it's really good. And like even the pen, like the pencil sensitivity on the iPad, and
Yeah.
yeah, I know a lot of people that will do There's some like professionals that I know that like they'll do whole issues for like Marvel, DC, and stuff just on that. Like
Oh,
they can still,
really? That's
yeah.
cool.
So it's just it's like one of those things. It's not so much like what you're using. It's like who's using it, I guess.
Your
And
skill.
yeah,
Just like if you don't have art skill, just get no I'm kidding. Um, yeah, I mean,
it's
I would
still
imagine.
like that said, like I'm used to how this pen works on here. So I find like when I go like the iPad's great, but I
Mhm.
don't I'm not I find it like it takes me a little while to get used to the like how that pen feels when I
Yeah.
do stuff with them. But that's just preference. It's really good. It's not.
So do
Well,
you is
beyond
it?
the
Oh, sorry. You could go,
no, go
John.
ahead, Crystal.
Oh, I was gonna ask, are you sketching it like on the pad and then the drawing is on the screen? So your eyes are looking at the screen when you draw?
Yeah, it's all on the
Oh,
same. It's all on the
okay.
same. I never got used to I forget what the tablets or
Yeah, like where you're looking at what you're drawing at the same time, right? Like on the same screen.
yeah, like I'm doing that, but yeah, I never got used to when they had the and you draw on something else and you're looking at
Oh, I see.
at
Okay.
the screen. Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, doesn't that get confusing?
no, I'm right on the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, I used to do it the other way around where I have to draw on the pad and then look on the screen.
Yeah, that's what I was
And
saying.
that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really annoying.
yeah, it's tricky for sure.
So you were saying earlier that you wouldn't turn down one of those big ones, drawing pads or drawing tables. But don't you tend to get used to like to go back to muscle memory a little bit? Don't you get used to drawing at a certain scale where you've got swipes and techniques that you've developed over the years? Um, and if you do, is that harder to translate into a different scale?
I actually would prefer. It's usually like yes and no. Depends on your wrist movements and stuff like that. Like I don't think there'd be any hindrance. It would just open up the door, if anything. Like
Huh.
the more you can keep your wrist locked and actually use your shoulder to draw lines, especially when you're inking or like with the actual brush. It might not be as important with the like the computers and stuff, but like traditionally, if you can keep your wrist locked and then use your shoulder, that's how people get like really nice straight lines or smooth, like fluid motion into their line. Is they're not flicking their wrist unless it's like a short little line. So
Gotcha.
yeah, like
I had no
it's
idea.
I think of like the Japanese calligraphy, right? Like they always have those big like they hold the brush at the tip and they're not really flicking their wrists. Like they're using the whole motion to like beautifully just
And doing
put
like
these
kung
lines down.
fu while making lines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a whole body movement. It's not like flick, 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 flick. Like they're not doing 1,000 little lines to make one big, beautiful thing. Yeah. So
No, that makes sense. There was a GIF going around a while ago, or maybe I shouldn't use that word since it starts fights. There was an animated sequence going on a while ago where this child walked up to a chalkboard and just drew a perfect circle.
oh
And he used his whole arm to do it. So now that makes sense.
yeah, I think that's the only way you can really get away with it. Or that's how it works, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna we'll probably stop soon, but I'm just gonna put one more layer over top to see like this was where to delineate where the doctor guy would be.
I really like this dude.
Oh, thanks, man. We could do I think so. This part would be so. Here's something. So you can see this line I did here, and then this line here is too boxy. Like it's not right. So if I back this up, I'm just gonna shrink the whole thing a little bit so I get more room to put him in. I think this is the biggest benefit of the computer. I would never be able to sketch so fast in real life because I would be way more conscious of running out of room in my composition. So like I still like paper the most, but like for speed and getting work done, like the computer is just so good for things like that. Just shrinking down the whole thing and rearranging
Perfectly
elements.
scaled.
Yeah, like you don't have to worry about you know, on paper you're like, ah crap, I ran out of room. Like there's nothing you can do. So yeah. But just for your like so a lot of people have trouble with backs. Backs are tough because you don't look at backs too much, but you always just think like it's gonna curve in. So I want to see like this kind of motion, especially just holding on to the. A lot of your spine will cut off how you can see the other side of the back. So this would be his muscles. So a lot of time I'll draw the figure underneath here and then put the clothes on top.
Do you ever find yourself not wanting to cover up something you've done if you're particularly pleased with it?
Yeah, it could happen. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, but
Is that when you mentioned like sometimes artists fall too much in love with their piece?
yeah, yes, yeah, that's for sure. Wow, that is sweet. I might keep one leg forward, or I might have them both back. But... Okay. You can see shadows would come off, so we just kind of block him out a little bit off his back.
How you feeling, man?
I'll go just on the sorry, studio.
It's never a good sign when a colleague comes by, looks at what you're drawing, and say, "How are you feeling? Are you okay?"
No, it's just because I just got my had my vaccine yesterday. Or the day
Oh, very
before.
nice. Which one
Yeah,
did you
so-
go
Oh, you
with?
did. You should have told
Yeah, yeah.
me. We could have pushed this.
Oh no, I'm feeling good now. I went home a little early yesterday, but I feel great now. I got the Pfizer.
Oh,
one.
good. Yeah, that's supposed to have the fewest side effects, so good choice.
It's good.
Yeah, I heard Moderna was
Paco.
stronger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's got like 3 times the active agent in it, so
Oh,
people are
shit.
having more side effects.
Makes
But it
sense.
doesn't have 3 times the efficacy, so figure that one out.
Yeah, yeah. You think of those two would be related, but I guess.
Yeah, Paco just got his today or yesterday too.
Oh, nice. Sweet. Kind of like the old picture, you can see like I'm just blocking in kind of shapes. Might be more light here, but I draw over top. I could do it in black anyway. So something I would definitely look a reference from this. So I just made up all this stuff, but then once I knock it back, I might look up a bat and then look up an actual like lab coat thing, you know, so I can get it looking right. But it would probably drape on the floors down here somehow. It would drape off his shoulders, kind of coming down here and make that look. Yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of my idea was if you look at the first one, so it's roughed out, but we had the idea of the monster on here. Say this was like the first part of the NFT or something like this, right? And then he's kind of being transformed, that thing with lighting, and then you know, next he's kind of broken free and kind of shackles and stuff hanging off him, you know. And now the doctor guy's in trouble, and you could always add one more and have a little story attached to it. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I was so pleased with the way that progression of the Cyber Jester came to life. I can't wait to see more of these characters. Like, I find myself looking at the Lumberjack and wondering if it's first, second, or third stage Lumberjack at this point.
Yeah, totally. That's a good question. I haven't really. Maybe if anyone's listening to this later, we need some feedback. I don't know what. You do some pretty funny stuff with the Lumberjack to see what way it can kind of progress, you know? So, be fun.
Yeah, especially with a squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a giant prehistoric squirrel. You can ride it. I don't know. Something.
I mean, you say just a sketch, but to me that looks pretty detailed.
Oh, cool. Actually, yeah. Here, I'll do one more thing. Just kind of like the thing before. Uh, so it adds a lot. If you just break up the shapes, even just with a straight gray, the blue might make it look a little weird, but it just help visually just break it out from the background. A lot of the time, that's the other thing I'd recommend too is like, unless you're used to it, even I didn't do it this time, but drawing on white isn't a great idea a lot of the time. Even if you just fill the background with like a light gray, it might just help. Maybe not so much for the sketching portion, my model saving, but especially when you're coloring something, because color is all relative to saturation and the color that's beside it. It really, like if you're coloring it beside a bright white, then it's going to affect that color, and it's not really a representation of what that color is. So if you grab like a medium gray, throw it down the whole background, now you're kind of you're starting with like a neutral, as opposed to starting on the brightest of the bright, if that makes sense. And we'll just make it a little darker.
Oh, hi. Good to see you. It's been a while. Are you driving yet?
Yes.
Are you boarding the car on a regular basis? Have you gone off to college? You're voting.
There. Get a little sketch, maybe some shadow underneath them, and I've got the time lapse saved, so when I do finish it, people can check out the full process and see the whole thing from start to finish.
It looks like you just turned it into a pewter figurine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those are super handy. Now with I'm actually excited to get I have some buddies that have 3D printers, but just the idea of like even a rough model of your character that you can just print off and then spin and use that as your own reference would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, especially with the software out there that easily turns 2D into 3D now.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Yeah, just to do like a rough sketch like this, and then and then like if you're using in a story that you have to reference that character a lot from a lot of different angles, it'd be pretty amazing to save time. Like you can do that with 3D models now, but just to have it beside me with the lamp, I don't know, just seems nice.
Well, just imagine being able to have like a merch store where somebody can look at a drawing and say, I'd really love a 3D of that. And then you could just send them the schematics.
That'd be
Exactly.
so cool.
Yeah, it's it. Cool. Awesome.
Well, thanks so much again.
Yeah, well, thanks for
Thank you.
hanging out. It's all good.
Yeah, this was super fun. Thank you.